In 1789, a new experiment began. A nation unlike any before it. No king, no empire, no throne, just an idea. That power belongs to the people. And at the center of that idea, the President of the United States. For over 2 centuries, this office has shaped history. Through war, crisis, prosperity, and change. Each president leaving behind decisions that defined not just a nation, but the world. This is the complete story of the American presidency. The American experiment, born from revolution, now faced its most perilous question. Could it survive? The answer would begin with one man. It begins with George Washington. He was, by all accounts, a reluctant leader. Having guided the Continental Army to an improbable victory, he desired nothing more than a quiet retirement at his Mount Vernon estate. But his country called again, this time to lead not an army, but a fragile new government. He understood the immense weight of his position. Every action, every decision, would set a precedent for generations to come. He was acutely aware that the world was watching, skeptical that a republic of this scale could endure without descending into chaos or tyranny. Washington's presidency was a masterclass in balancing opposing forces. Within his own cabinet, the philosophical gulf between Alexander Hamilton's vision of a strong central government and Thomas Jefferson's agrarian ideal of limited federal power threatened to tear the nation apart. Washington navigated these divisions, striving for a unity he knew was essential. His most enduring legacy was a choice he made. After 2 terms, he voluntarily stepped down, establishing the peaceful transfer of power as a cornerstone of American democracy. In his farewell address, he issued a profound warning against the dangers of political factions and foreign entanglements. He had refused the temptation of absolute authority, proving to a skeptical world that a leader could serve the people and then return to being one of them. He proved democracy could work. Then came John Adams, a brilliant and often stubborn patriot who inherited a nation on the brink of war with France. This was a time of intense tension and paranoia. The undeclared naval conflict, known as the Quasi-War, fueled fears of foreign infiltration and domestic subversion. In this climate of crisis, Adams's administration passed one of the most controversial sets of laws in American history, the Alien and Sedition Acts. The Alien Acts extended the residency requirement for citizenship and granted the president power to deport foreigners deemed a threat. The Sedition Act went even further, making it a crime to publish false, scandalous, and malicious writing against the government. Immediately, the laws were decried as a direct assault on the First Amendment. Editors and politicians were arrested, and the acts ignited a firestorm of protest, testing the very meaning of free speech and the limits of federal power. In response, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison secretly authored the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions, which argued that states had the right to nullify unconstitutional federal laws, an idea that would echo through American history. Though the acts stained his legacy, Adams ultimately steered the nation away from a full-blown war, a decision that likely cost him his presidency, but saved the young republic. Next, in the election of 1800, a bitter contest that Adams's rival, Thomas Jefferson, called the Second American Revolution, power transferred peacefully between opposing parties for the first time. As president, Jefferson reshaped the nation in a way few could have imagined. In 1803, he seized an unexpected opportunity from Napoleon Bonaparte. For $15 million, he authorized the Louisiana Purchase, a staggering acquisition of 828,000 square miles of territory. The deal doubled America's size overnight, securing control of the vital Mississippi River and opening a vast frontier for westward expansion. It was a bold, visionary move, but it was also a move made without clear constitutional backing. Jefferson, the great champion of a limited federal government, had to stretch his own principles to their breaking point, exercising an executive authority far beyond what the Constitution explicitly allowed. This single act fundamentally altered America's destiny, setting it on a course of continental expansion while simultaneously deepening the debate over the nature of federal power, a debate that had begun with Washington and would continue to define the nation for centuries to come. James Madison led during the War of 1812. Washington burned, but the nation survived. James Monroe introduced the Monroe Doctrine, warning European powers to stay out of the Americas. Then came Andrew Jackson, a populist force. He expanded presidential power, but his Indian removal policy led to the tragic Trail of Tears, a decision still debated today. As the nation grew, so did its divisions. Slavery became the defining issue, and then Abraham Lincoln, a leader in the nation's darkest hour. The Civil War tore America apart. His Emancipation Proclamation changed the course of history, ending slavery at a devastating cost. In the wake of the Civil War and Abraham Lincoln's assassination, the nation faced a monumental task: rebuilding a fractured country and defining the meaning of freedom. This era, known as Reconstruction, was a period of profound struggle and fragile hope. The presidency, now occupied by figures like Ulysses S. Grant, was thrust into the center of this battle. Grant, the Union's celebrated general, took office determined to enforce the newly won rights of African Americans. He championed the 15th Amendment, which guaranteed voting rights regardless of race, and used federal power to protect citizens from the rising terror of white supremacist groups like the Ku Klux Klan. For a brief, luminous moment, it seemed as though the promise of a truly biracial democracy might be realized. Black men voted, held office, and participated in the political life of the South in unprecedented numbers. But progress was tragically uneven and short-lived. The forces of resistance were relentless. In the South, a violent backlash sought to restore the old racial hierarchy. In the North, political will began to wane, distracted by economic turmoil and a series of corruption scandals that tarnished Grant's administration. By 1877, federal troops were withdrawn from the South, effectively ending Reconstruction. The presidency, which had been a powerful, if inconsistent, guardian of civil rights, stepped back. The vacuum was filled by segregationist, redeemer governments who systematically dismantled the gains that had been made, ushering in the long, dark era of Jim Crow. The nation had turned its back on the promise of equality, a failure that would haunt it for generations. As the dream of Reconstruction died, a new force was reshaping America at a breathtaking pace: rapid industrialization. This was the Gilded Age, a term that captured both the glittering surface of new wealth and the deep-seated corruption and inequality that lay beneath. Railroads stitched the continent together, factories churned out steel and textiles, and cities exploded in size, drawing millions of immigrants and rural Americans with the promise of work. Towering figures, the so-called robber barons like Carnegie, Rockefeller, and Morgan, built colossal corporate empires, or trusts, that controlled entire industries. Their influence was immense, often dwarfing that of the government itself. For decades, the presidency remained largely passive in the face of this new economic order, often siding with capital against the growing labor movement, which fought for safer conditions and fair wages. Then, with the dawn of the 20th century, came a president who would fundamentally redefine the role of the office in this new industrial landscape. Theodore Roosevelt, who unexpectedly took power after the assassination of William McKinley, believed the presidency should be a bully pulpit, a platform to advocate for the public good. He argued that the federal government had a duty to act as a steward for the American people, mediating between the powerful forces of capital and labor. Roosevelt's presidency was a whirlwind of action. He became known as the Trust Buster, using the Sherman Antitrust Act to take on some of the nation's most powerful corporations, arguing that no private interest was above the law. He intervened in a major coal strike, not to crush the union, but to broker a deal that served the public interest. A passionate naturalist, he vastly expanded the nation's system of national parks and forests, protecting some 230 million acres of natural resources from unchecked exploitation. And on the world stage, he projected a new, muscular American presence, mediating the end of the Russo-Japanese War and overseeing the construction of the Panama Canal. The presidency was no longer passive. It was active, bold, and profoundly influential, setting a new precedent for executive power that would shape the century to come. The dawn of the 20th century thrust the American presidency onto the world stage. Woodrow Wilson, an idealist and former academic, initially campaigned on keeping America out of the escalating conflict in Europe. But the realities of German unrestricted submarine warfare and the interception of the Zimmermann telegram, which proposed a German-Mexican alliance against the U.S., made neutrality untenable. In 1917, Wilson asked Congress to declare war, asserting that the world must be made safe for democracy. American intervention proved decisive, tipping the balance of power and hastening the end of World War I. In the aftermath, Wilson championed a new global order. He presented his 14 points, a blueprint for lasting peace, with its cornerstone being a League of Nations, an international body designed to resolve disputes through diplomacy and collective security. He envisioned a world united, but back home, his vision met a wall of resistance. The Senate, wary of ceding sovereignty and being drawn into future European conflicts, rejected the Treaty of Versailles. America turned inward, embracing a decade of isolationism and seemingly boundless prosperity. The Roaring Twenties were a whirlwind of cultural change and economic speculation, but the boom masked deep-seated inequalities and a fragile financial system built on credit. In October 1929, the bubble burst. The stock market crash triggered the Great Depression, a catastrophic economic collapse that plunged the nation and the world into despair. Banks failed, unemployment skyrocketed, and millions faced poverty and starvation. The crisis called for a leader of unprecedented action, and America found one in Franklin D. Roosevelt. Elected in a landslide, FDR promised a New Deal for the American people. In his first 100 days, he launched a flurry of programs: the Civilian Conservation Corps, the Works Progress Administration, the Tennessee Valley Authority, that fundamentally reshaped the relationship between the government and its citizens. Roosevelt's New Deal was a bold experiment in federal intervention, creating social safety nets like Social Security and regulating the financial industry to prevent a future collapse. His reassuring fireside chats, broadcast over the radio, brought him directly into American homes, calming a panicked nation. While critics argued his policies overstepped the bounds of federal power, voters responded by electing him to an unprecedented 4 terms. He steered the country through its darkest economic hour, restoring hope and redefining the role of the presidency as a direct instrument for the public good. But as America was rebuilding, the world was once again descending into war. The specter of tyranny rose in Europe and Asia. For a time, the U.S. remained officially neutral, but Roosevelt, recognizing the threat, maneuvered to support the Allies. The surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, shattered American isolationism once and for all. FDR led a nation unified in purpose, overseeing a staggering mobilization of industrial and military might. The arsenal of democracy armed the Allied forces, while millions of American men and women served on fronts across the globe. The global fight against fascism was won at an immense cost. Roosevelt would not live to see the final victory, but his leadership had laid the groundwork. When the guns fell silent, the world was irrevocably changed. The old European empires were shattered, and 2 new, opposing powers stood dominant: the Soviet Union and the United States. No longer a reluctant participant on the world stage, America emerged from the ashes of World War II as a global superpower, possessing unparalleled economic and military strength and facing the profound new responsibilities that came with it. Harry S. Truman made one of the most controversial decisions in history: the use of atomic bombs, ending World War II and beginning the nuclear age. John F. Kennedy inspired a generation. The Cuban Missile Crisis brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. Lyndon B. Johnson pushed civil rights forward, but escalated the Vietnam War. The presidency faced its greatest internal crisis under Richard Nixon: the Watergate scandal, abuse of power, the only president to resign, trust in government shattered. Ronald Reagan reshaped economic policy, tax cuts, strong military, end of the Cold War era. Bill Clinton oversaw economic growth, but faced impeachment, a presidency of success and controversy. Then came George W. Bush, September 11, 2001, a defining moment. War on terror began. Global conflicts reshaped the world. Barack Obama made history, the first African-American president. Healthcare reform, economic recovery after crisis, a symbol of change. Donald Trump, a presidency unlike any before. Populism, economic shifts, deep political division. 2 impeachments, a redefining of political norms. Now under Joe Biden, America faces new challenges: economic recovery, global tensions, climate concerns, a nation still evolving. From George Washington to today, the presidency has never been just one man. It is a reflection of the people, their struggles, their values, their future. Every decision, every moment has shaped the course of history, and the story is still being written.